Hello Glenpool, welcome to Glenpool at a Glance. Hey, we're glad you joined us. This is our monthly video series where we talk about what is happening in the city and give you updates on all the different things that are going on. So as we close out this year, we want to talk about a little bit about and look back over the course of this year. You know, 2022 has been kind of a crazy year, an unusual year here internally for us. We've had a lot of changes internally, especially with personnel. We had 9 different retirements this year. And so I want to cover a couple of those retirements or those names and just recognize them, thank them again for the work that we did. We always have an employee banquet, end of the year banquet, awards banquet, and we take time to recognize them there. But I also want to recognize them here because these individuals did a lot of work for this city and served this city with everything that they had. And so we just thank them for their service. Assistant Police Chief Bart Harris, Sergeant Scott Ward, Corporal Sheldon Fair, Corporal Scott McClellan, and Corporal Chris Sheldon, all within the police department, retired in 2022. Deputy Fire Chief Chad Tanner, Captain Troy Radford, both retired from our fire service this last year. B. Latrell was a longtime utility billing employee, and Lynn Burrow was our longtime community development director. All 9 individuals retired this last year. That's a lot of service, a lot of experience that we lost. Couple that with the new positions that we were able to add in the budget this last year, that was 13 new positions in 2022, including 4 new firefighters, a lieutenant in the police department. First time we've had a lieutenant in the department as we continue to grow. We were excited about adding that position, and 2 new dispatchers this year. So our public safety department grew significantly across the board for police and fire, and so we were excited about those. But between those retirements and those new hires, we had a lot of new faces at the city this year. You're going to see a list of some of those names here up on the screen. That's caused a few different pieces as we work through this, that we take time to onboard those employees, to make sure they understand what we're about, what our core values are, and how we serve. And the goal when we serve is to create trust by serving you. And hopefully we're doing a good job of that. And if we're not, let me know. I want to know that so that we can continue to improve what we do. Our goal is to create opportunities to build a better community for you and for your businesses here locally. So as let me highlight a couple of key employees that were either hired this last year or promoted this last year because of all this change and this turnover that we've had. Gerald Gilbert became our Development Services Director this last year. He replaced Lynn Burrow. David Egbentonson is our new city engineer. First time we have had a city engineer's position as a standalone position in the city. Jesse Hale is our public works director. We're excited for all of those coming on board as we begin to grow our public works and our development services departments and expand those to provide more opportunities for development and growth, but not only for commercial growth, but for residential growth in the community. Then also we had Ron Morey, who is our Streets and Parks Director, stepped up for an outgoing employee there. Sarah Cage is our new Comptroller. And Joe Woost is our Economic Development Director. Max Wilson is our brand new Deputy Fire Chief, was just promoted. You're going to be hearing more about him in the coming month as he will go before the council to be recognized in January for this new promotion. And then Jeremy Plain was our police chief. And so if you haven't had a chance to see Facebook yet, I know you will here soon, but we had his pinning ceremony at the most recent city council meeting, and it was a great night to recognize Jeremy. Jeremy has been a long-standing officer in our department, has come up through the ranks to sergeant. He was our first lieutenant, and then now is promoted to police chief. And we're excited about the things Jeremy brings and the leadership and experience he brings to this department and what's going to happen moving forward there as they grow. I mentioned earlier also that we have each year where we recognize some of these retirees and our new hires. One of the other things that we do at the end of each year as part of this banquet is recognize our Employee of the Year. And so I want to bring that up here and talk about that just briefly. Leanne Reed is our Conference Center Director, our Community Relations Director. She was our Employee of the Year for 2022, and we're excited about Leanne. She does an amazing job here in both roles, not only of working and directing what happens here at the Glenpool Conference Center to make sure that your events and those events that we bring in are just perfect for people. We want to serve them well because by bringing in these groups, not only local groups that we have a chance to serve here locally, but those from out of the area, out of Tulsa, out of state, even as we bring them into the conference center. And that's a chance for economic development here in the city. Many of these groups shop here locally. They're working with local caterers. They're staying in local hotels when they come in for multi-day events. And so that brings money into the city, and it helps local business. And so we're excited with the work she does there, but also then in the community. She is always out and around coordinating events. The Red, White, and Boom Bash every year is one of those events that she puts on, as well as many others, working with the Glenpool Optimist Club and other clubs here in the city. So thank you to Leanne. Amazing job that you do for the city. I couldn't be prouder that you are our 2022 Employee of the Year. But I also want to mention 2 other finalists that we had for that role. Each year an employee committee gets together and looks at this and creates a set of finalists that come to the city manager's office that the assistant city manager and I then choose between to create our employee year. And I want to recognize these other 2 individuals as well, because they do an amazing job too. Sarah Griffin is our code enforcement officer in the city, and Austin Adams is a dispatcher jailer. Both do an amazing job serving for us. And we are so thankful for the work that they do here in the city and the way that they serve their community and their department here at the city. I want to mention, as we continue to kind of close out and do a look back at this last year, the council at their most recent meeting heard from our auditors. Each year the city does an independent audit. So we hire an outside firm that reviews the books, looks at everything that we're doing. And again, for this year, we had a clean audit, no findings. And so just want to say thank you to our finance team. They do an amazing job of keeping us moving forward on finance side, keeping us clean, avoiding any impropriety, misspent funds, all those other things that sometimes happen within cities are not happening here. We continue to have a clean audit, and our employees do a great job, and our finance team is one of the best. So thank you to all of our finance team for the work that you've done as part of this audit. You can find that audit on our website. It'll be posted under the finance department page. If you want to take a look at what's going on and how we spend our money in the city, I would encourage you to go out there, take a look at the audit. Our budget's there as well. And so you can see all of that information right there on our website each year. One of the other big pieces that happened this last year is redistricting for our council wards. So if you don't realize how that process works or understand what council wards are, just like congressional boundaries or state representative boundaries or state senator boundaries, cities are required to have wards that your local council members are elected from. And so in Glenpool, we have 4 wards that elect 4 different council members, and then 1 council member elected at large. After each census, state law requires us to redistrict, to reapportion, to make sure that those wards are balanced within a plus or minus percentage point of each other. And so basically every council member represents roughly the same amount of people across the city. So we went through that process a little bit earlier this year, and the council approved those new ward boundaries. You'll get to see them and experience them as we get ready for a new election in April. So we'll be, filing period is in February for city council wards, and then the new election process will be in April. So the council also just approved the resolution outlining how that will work and setting that up. So if you're interested in that, take a look at the resolution from the first meeting in January for that council meeting, and you'll get a chance to see how that's set up, what those wards look like. You can also find the wards on our city council webpage there on the city's website. One of the biggest pieces of news, though, for this last year, and something that we are really, really excited about, is the city was awarded $44 million from the state of Oklahoma ARPA funds. So the state received $1.9 billion in ARPA funds, and from that, they begin to split that up and use that for projects across the state. Thanks to the work of Mayor Calvert, our city council, and some of our city staff, we were able to convince the state of our need for a new sewer plant, and they awarded us $44 million to help move through that process. That's one of the largest awards to any municipality in the state of Oklahoma. And so we are so thankful to the mayor, to the other council members that were a part of this, and to the city staff that were a part of this process, and to move that forward. This is a historic amount of money for the city, and it will help us move that new sewer plant that we desperately need so that we can continue to grow. And so you'll see the work start on that in this coming year as we start moving forward with design elements now for that new plant. So thank you to all that were involved with that. We are excited about that money and that award from the state. If you want a little bit more information about that, I would encourage you, go watch our Conversations with the City video for this last month as well, where I have a chance to sit down with Mayor Calvert and we talk a little bit more in depth about this funding and about that award process. So that's a little bit of the highlights of this last year. Let me talk for a minute quickly about some of the projects that are ongoing and some of those that we're looking forward to finish in 2023. So we've had a couple of things happening, and we've talked about them a lot in the past, but I just want to touch on them again because it's been a little while, and I'm sure some of you are going, where are we at on this, and what's happening here? And so a couple of the big projects that are ongoing. The 151st Street Corridor Study, or Highway 67 Corridor Study, is underway. If you remember from a few council meetings past, and we talked about it here on this video series, and we've talked about it in other places on our social media. We had a public input session into that where we had the consultants here locally on two different occasions, once here and once at Faith Church. They're on the border between us and Bigsby, to talk with residents and local area businesses about what they want to see in that corridor. That process is finished. They have taken all of those and are now working with those suggestions to do a final design. At the moment, we expect that sometime in May of 2023, and we'll present that to the council at that point to see what that looks like before they make a final decision on the corridor study itself. So again, we hope that will be finished somewhere around the May timeline. We'll get a chance to bring that before the council and talk about it publicly then when we see those final recommendations from that group. The other things that we continue to work on, we have a Safe Routes to School grant that is set up to be able to do some sidewalks. The goal is to connect the community center at roughly 143rd, 142nd, and Peoria with the school system. So we have a complete sidewalk system between those two entities. That grant is ongoing. Design work should be finished up in January, and then we will move forward into bidding and construction processes if the designs are approved by ODOT. This is an ODOT style grant, and so we have to work through the state on that, but we're glad finally to get this process moving forward, hopefully get this grant off the road and finish up some sidewalks in that area. Kendalwood South Park, we have a community development block grant that we have received for that, and so that process is due to be finished by the end of June. Those grant funds expire at that time. So we are in the finishing stages of design and bidding on that. And so hopefully all the different bidding pieces that we've got to have in place will be approved here shortly by the county who oversees CDBG grants. That would allow us to actually go out for bid and get that work started on that project and get that Kendalwood South Park finished by June 30. The other one, the Kendalwood North Park, is a little bit larger project, and we've had some issues with that. It's not moved as quickly as we would have wanted it to. We put in some drainage improvements this last year. We have had a problem with those drainage improvements, and so we're working to get those fixed, working with the contractor that was out originally on that site. And because of that, we have not started adding back in the playground equipment and other things that we want. We want to make sure the drainage is done right before we do anything else to that site because we've had problems with that park in the past. For those in that area that use it, you know that park turned into a swampland after a rain. And so we want to make sure that all of the drainage issues are fixed to the best of our ability to fix them. Now, there's always a few problems here or there, but we think we're going to end up being able to take care of most of that before we start putting it on. So with that, we anticipate going back out and having the drainage piece work fixed and redone here within the next month or so that we can get started again on the playground equipment and the other things that need to happen there again and have that ready to bid out in the next couple months. Work should start late spring or into the summer for that, depending on how quickly the drainage pieces themselves get fixed. So that's a quick update on both of those parks. I know many of you in that area use Kendalwood North Park. It's a little bit larger park and have been waiting patiently for us to get there. We are still moving forward with it and want to make sure we let you know what's going on there. The other big one, projects that we're looking forward to now for 2023, we have two different drainage projects in Rolling Meadows that are going on. Right, the first one is at the top of the hill on the west edge of Rolling Meadows where it meets up to Taylor's Pond. The other project is a little bit smaller, but it's down there at the bottom on the east side down along Vancouver. Or the locals tell me that it turns into a lake, so Vancouver Lake, unfortunately, where we'll be working to fix those two drainage issues. Those will be going out to design. We have to do some engineering design on that, and that will happen here within the next probably 60 days. to finish up design work on that so that we can get started this summer on actual construction of that site, fixing those two issues. The one thing that we don't have at the moment is the connecting piece between the two. Those funds were not appropriated as part of Move Glenpool Forward. So we will be working with council based on the design and what the engineer comes back to says needs to happen and how to best fix that. There may need to be some underground piping laid down along the street from west to east to get rid of the water more appropriately. And if that's the case, we'll work through that from a budgetary process to add funds to what was already appropriated and Move Glenpool Forward. So quick update there on that. The other pieces that we've got this year, we are still doing a lighting project at the South County Soccer Complex. We're going to phase that project in, and so we'll get roughly half of the bigger field areas lit this year, so that soccer club can begin to look at how they want to handle nighttime games or tournaments or other types of things at that site. The other big piece that we've got is our annual road repair. And so we will see that bid going out here again in the next 30 to 60 days. Bids go out with the goal to have all of that work done as best we can by June 30 for this year's budgetary numbers. The council appropriated more money than normal for our road repair, and so we are thankful to them for adding money to that account this year. However, we've got two large street projects that we want to get fixed as part of this. So we won't have quite as many projects where some of these smaller projects that were in neighborhoods. We have two major areas we want to get fixed. One of them is there at 141st, basically right in front of Quick Trip. There is a large hump, asphalt hump in the middle of that street where it meets the concrete bridge. We are aware of that. We want to get that fixed, but as part of that, we have to fix the drainage under that street as well. So both of those are going to be a project tied into this year's funding. The other big one is on Peabody. This is back in the neighborhood, but again, we have a drainage problem where we have seen roads start to collapse because some of the pipes underground have silted in or collapsed from the weight of cars driving on the road. So those are two larger projects. We'll see how far the money stretches to see what else we can get done. We always try to maximize the number of projects we can get done. But those are two badly needed pieces that we want to make sure are first up on our priority list this year for road projects. And then the other big one I talked about earlier is our sewer plant. And so there's a lot of work already underway as we go through that, and there are a lot of steps to fix a sewer plant. So right now we are still working with the Corps of Engineers. There is some floodway in that area, what they call wetlands, and so we have to make sure that we appropriately deal with that we aren't ruining habitat for animals, and that we appropriately follow federal laws. So we have submitted our plans to them, and once they approve the process and our plan, and then we are able to move forward and start design on that piece. But again, our hope and our goal is to have a brand new sewer plant in place and running by December of 2024. And so that is the goal today. Targets can change as we continue to know. There are shortages in certain areas and long lead times for getting equipment as we deal with continued problems in the manufacturing sector across this country. But that is our goal, to have that new plant up and running by the end of December 2024. So that's where we've been this last year. A couple of projects that we're looking forward to for this new year as we kind of do a little bit of a recap at the end of this year, calendar year. Couple quick notes. City Hall will be closed January 16th for Martin Luther King Jr. Day as we celebrate that federal holiday, which means that our council meeting normally scheduled for that night is moved to Tuesday. So if you're interested and you follow our council meetings either in person or online, just be aware that we will not have our normal Monday council meeting. It will be a Tuesday night, January 17th. Hey, we're glad you joined us today. These are always an exciting time for me to do these video sessions, to be able to talk with you. I know it generates conversation online. I know it generates conversation amongst the public, because I get many of you coming up and talking to me about things that we've talked about in these videos. So thank you for watching. I hope they continue to be a good source of information for you in the future. Until next time, we'll see you next month for Glenpool at a Glance.